What is up, you guys? Glitchiz here, and welcome back to the channel. Today I am finally bringing you the long anticipated warrior build update for the Forging the Path update in Enshrouded. It's a long time coming. I know there was a bunch of delays, which I apologize again for, but we're here now as promised. So let's jump right into it. First thing I want to go over is the armor as usual. So if we go to our character, if we start off with the boots, I like to run the Drakian boots as my primary option. You get a ton of stamina regeneration. Stamina regeneration delay is very quick. You get bonus cutting armor and flat stamina once it's fully upgraded, 20 piercing armor, 10 damage, percent damage rather, against all wildlife enemies, and 10% damage against all Drak, but the base stats also give an additional 5%. So with these boots alone, you're getting 15% bonus damage flat out against all Drak type enemies in the new endgame zone, which is why I like to run them. If you're not in the endgame zone, the alternative option that you can run is going to be the Quetzal Hunter Shoes. This also has good stamina regeneration and actually a slightly faster stamina regeneration delay, which is nice. You do also get some bonuses to runner and additional stamina generation when you rank it up. So all in all, great choice here as well. But for 90% of the endgame content you're going to be doing, especially in the newer zone, Drakian boots is where it's at. For the pants, this is my go-to pants on pretty much every single class now. It's the new Wayfarer pants. Amazing perks for just general exploring. You get tons of sprint speed, minus 20% stamina depletion while gliding and climbing, 30% actually for gliding. You get 24 flat stamina, 18 stamina regeneration, and then again a bunch more endurance kind of exploration based perks once you fully upgrade it. Points in runner, rebound, and airborne, which is going to make jumping, running on dirt roads, things like that, and just gliding in general a lot more efficient. So all in all, great pair of pants to kind of balance out our stamina issues that we're getting, especially on the warrior class with some of our attacks and just general exploring. Moving on to the gloves, I run the Great Sword Gauntlets. This has been my go-to for pretty much my last 2 or 3 warrior builds because it is the only glove set that you can equip in the game right now that gives you a flat 21% damage increase for that given weapon type. And in this case, it's the Great Sword, which is what we're primarily going to be using with this build. We will be taking pretty much every perk you need to run a sword and board build as well for one-handed weapons. But most of the time when we're running around, you'll be focusing on two-handed weapons. But it's got decent parry power, 21% Great Sword damage, 18% bonus damage against all flying enemies, so that's great with the grappling hook perk we're going to take, as well as against enemies like the Fell Dragon Boss, because that's considered a flying enemy. Another 12 flat stamina regeneration, and then once you fully upgrade it, it has 19 cutting armor, 20 blunt armor, and some good bonus perks like Athlete, Vigorous Deflection, and Titan's Edge, which will also increase our greatsword damage even further. So really, really good if you're a greatsword user to use this in the build. For the chest piece, my tried and true Sunpiercer chest plate. I've used this on multiple builds at this point, not even warriors, to get some extra survivability across the board in the form of just a shit ton of bonus health. 360 flat health, 36 stamina for the base stats, but then when you fully upgrade it, you get 19 cutting armor, 20 piercing armor, another 120 base health, and then bonus points towards a blood rage and veteran, which are some perks that we will be taking in the skill tree this time around. So really, really great chest piece for this build. And then last but not least, for the helmet, I like running the Sunpiercer helmet. Good physical magic armor. We get 13% melee critical strike chance, which is great, and 15% bonus critical strike damage. Once you fully upgrade it, 19 blunt armor, 20 piercing armor, +1 to the Barbarian's Path, so more two-handed weapon damage, or maybe crit chance. I can't remember what that one is. 18 health regeneration, and a point in Brute, which we will be taking as well. So really good synergy across all these pieces that are just perfectly built for a two-handed great-sworded warrior build. So yeah, that is the armor. Next up, we have the rings, and for this particular build, there's a few different options that I have ready, depending on the scenario that you're going to be running into. So if you're in the end game, the late game, in like the Drak territories to the far northwest, things like that, where enemies are going to be hitting a lot harder, they're the higher level enemies in the game, I recommend running double ultimate rings of health. Reason being is of the tons of extra base health that we're going to be getting. Plus, it also gives, once you fully upgrade it, points into Veteran and Battle Heal, which is going to give us some more survivability in the form of self-healing anytime we crit with our melee weapons, which is really nice. So really good for just face tanking pretty much any high hitting enemy in the late game. I think in the combat demo I'll show at the end, I go against some of the huge Drac brutes and I literally just face tank every one of his attacks, and by the end of the fight I don't even think I drop below half health. I'm like 2/3 of health the entire fight, and I just took every hit that he sent the way. So really good. The alternate options though that you can switch to in the earlier game when you don't necessarily have access to the ultimate rings of health in the later zones would be double rings of the ancients. I get these from the old ultimate legendary chest farm location in the Kindle Waste zone, which is going to be this far corner area. It's going to be right here on this little cliff ledge. I actually like to put a flame altar there so I can just teleport and every few hours farm that chest over and over once it resets. But once you spawn in here, there's going to be a little chest, ornate chest that you can grab at the base of this that has a lot of those earlier zone legendary weapons and armor, and in this case the Ring of Ancients as well. So this has been the most consistent location to find that early game Ring of Ancients. But then the other option is going to be specifically for when you're in the Shroud and against the Fell Dragon boss, and that is the Gemini Ring. This is great because it gives you a ton of health regeneration and actually 5% health leech, which is going to make our critical strikes and just general hits with our greatsword heal us a ton with every single hit, but it also gives a flat 5% bonus damage against Fell. And when you look at the Ring of Health, we do get Veteran and Battle Heal, which will slightly increase our damage and give us some more survivability, but when you're going against boss fights and things like that, especially the Fell Dragon boss, the 10% bonus damage you would get flat out against all Fell enemies for that particular fight is going to outweigh the health, in my opinion, that you would get for that particular battle, because when you see the combat demo, you can kill him very easily in a quick 2-phase, less than a minute and a half. I think it's even under a minute potentially that we take him out with this build. So you really don't have to worry about your health, honestly. So just having that bonus damage comes in really handy for those particular situations, the Fell Dragon boss and anytime you're in the Shroud. But any late game stuff, again, my go-to that I run 90% of the time is going to be double ultimate rings of health. You can run the lower tier versions of this if you want, if you're starting out earlier, to give you a little bit some more survivability as well. There's like the normal Ring of Health, an uncommon, and a rare version of this as well that just give you slightly lower stats, but both really good options. Moving on to the shield, I'm running the Sun Piercer shield, and the only reason I'm taking this is because of the bonuses to power parry, and it just has the highest parry power in the game with 358, which is insane. You can basically 3-shot if you exclusively parried the meteor balls that the Fell Dragon boss does with only 3 basically parry attacks. You can fully fill his stun meter. Unfortunately, you can't do it in 2, and I like to take the boss down in exactly 2 phases at max. So I have to throw in a few arrows just to speed that fight up, some stun arrows. But for normal parrying, and just if you're going sword and board, switching to your one-handed axe that I'll be showing here in a minute, it's really good for just one-hit mercy killing enemies, which is another perk we're taking. So that's why we run that. For the bow, I'll run the Forsaken bow. Really the only reason we're running this is to be able to fire stun arrows for particular boss fights so you can fill their stun meter faster. But moving on to the main weapons, if we go to our backpack, the best in slot, in my opinion, for this build, since we're focusing on greatswords, is going to be either the Greatsword of Rivalry or the Summit Greatsword. These actually are identical when it comes to stats. It's just a cosmetic difference. They just look different. So depending on the style you like better, feel free to pick either or. The base damage is exactly the same, 165.1. It's going to have 127 cutting damage and then 3 ice perk damages. We also will be taking the Iceman perk in the skill tree to increase the ice damage that we do with this weapon a little bit more as well. It has, once fully upgraded, 3 additional ice magic damage perks, 20% backstab damage, which we can take really good advantage of during the Fell Dragon boss if you know how to position yourself properly, and then another 20% merciless attack damage, which is good if you parry an enemy and want to quickly switch over and finish them off. It's just going to be a ton of bonus damage that you can do with that when you do your one-hit kill. The other option, and similar to how I mentioned in my wizard build, how there was a bug that I was waiting forever for them to potentially update that kind of was a game changer for this particular build. I also had a similar bug, as you guys know, for the warrior, which still hasn't been fixed. And if that bug gets fixed, another great potential option that we can run as a potentially best in slot will be officially the Guard of the North sword. It has about 10 or so less base damage, which right now is pretty substantial because our healing and stuff isn't working properly, and I'll go over why in a minute. But the reason why this is really good is because it's not necessarily ice. It does have cutting and shock, which the soaked status debuff that we can get through the Gem of Currents, which, by the way, I am running Gem of Currents on all of the weapons, so keep that in mind. We can take advantage of the shock and ice damage from both weapons from the elemental resistance reduction that we get from the Gem of Currents. But the other cool reason is this particular sword has 2 critical strike chance perks on it, which will allow us to crit more often. And if the perk that is bugged right now starts working properly, it's going to heal us more anytime that we crit. So if you want a little bit additional survivability when you're running around, this sword might become a little bit more better in the long run in terms of survivability, especially in the late game, because we're going to be critting more frequently and healing ourselves more frequently. But unfortunately, there's 2 particular perks and skills in the tree right now that aren't working properly, and I'll go over those later on in the video. So honestly, I'd rather go with the damage right now. So that is the only reason why I'm running the Great Sword of Rivalry right now. You will still do more damage even once the bug gets fixed, but you won't get as much healing. And honestly, in my opinion, in the later zones, the damage difference isn't that noticeable. So I would just rather take the survivability, in which case we'll swap to the Guard of the North. So I'm hoping to future-proof this build similar to how I did with the Wizard build. But moving on, that is going to be our main primary two-handed weapon. I also like to run a sword and board option in case we run into enemies a little bit quicker. We want something that hits a little bit faster, and or we have our shield available so we can parry things and just one-shot enemies if it's just a one-off enemy unit and not a pack of them. And in that instance, we will use the shield that we showed earlier, and then the best in slot, in my opinion, is going to be the Death Gazer Axe. I honestly don't use this that often, but the reason I do use it is because it has a ton of health leech, which will combo well with the perks in the tree that we're taking to regain our health very quickly, but it also has opportunistic, and since we're taking advantage of the Gem of Currents, which utilizes the soak status debuff, opportunistic will give this particular weapon 12% bonus critical strike chance against all enemies that we hit that are affected by the soak status debuff. So it combos really well with all of the skills we're taking, all of the gems that we're taking on the weapons, and is all around for this particular build, potentially the best option for soak status builds. So that's why we run it. I did test another good one, which is the Frostwing Axe. Same ice bonus damage that you're going to be getting here. Has a little bit higher base damage than the Jagged Obsidian Axe. Oh, and by the way, the Death Gazer Axe and the Jagged Obsidian Axe are similar to the Summit Greatsword and the Greatsword of Rivalry. Same exact stats for these 2 one-handeds. They're just cosmetically different, so feel free to grab either of them, whichever one you find first. The other option, as I was mentioning, would be the Frostwing Axe. This is good because it does have some similar life leech perks like the Jagged Obsidian Axe, but it uses ice damage and has a little bit higher base damage than the other 2. You just won't have as high of crit chance. So they're both good options. I still run the Gem of Currents on it, but for the few instances that we're going to be running a one-hander, I like basically using it honestly only just for faster healing. So having that crit, that opportunistic perk on the Death Gazer Axe and the double health leech tends to be better in my opinion for the one-handed option. So that's why I run that. So those are the weapons. Moving on to the ammunition and consumables, really the only ammunition we need to worry about is going to be stun arrows. 99% of the time, you really don't need to worry about this. I typically only run it against the Fell Dragon boss and some of the bigger, more annoying bosses that I like to stun that have a lot of downtime when you stun them. But other than that, I pretty much leave the bow alone and I just sword down any enemy that I come across without any issues. So that's the only ammunition you have to worry about. But moving on to consumables, we have our best in slot, obviously health and mana potions. So ultimate mana potion plus and ultimate health potion plus. I take the Drac Soulward flasks for bonus 10% damage against all Drac enemies. Really great in the later zones. We have our tried and true portable water pump, which is the main way that we're going to be applying the soak status debuff to ourselves. And I can go ahead and show you how that works actually really quick, because I forgot to do that in the previous video. But all you have to do, honestly, once you get this is get the water pump. You can go into any water source. It could be a lake, a river, stream out in the wilderness, a pool that you have in your base, and just right click, and that will start filling the meter for the water pump up to use. And once that's filled, that's the equivalent of like 30 water balloons that you don't have to worry about crafting. So you pretty much have infinite ability to soak yourself. And all you got to do is literally walk up to any wall or object that is higher than your body, walk up to it, aim up, and then spray. And that will pull the water off the wall and kind of ricochet it off onto yourself, and basically apply that soak status debuff to you. And it won't really show an accurate demonstration of the timer in our territory because it reduces debuffs more quickly. But if you're out in the wild, you should get the soak status debuff for 30 seconds. And then once that runs out, it will instantly swap to the wet status, which also applies the debuff as well with the Gem of Currents. So both of those statuses do work. And with this build, it should last for 4 to 5 minutes afterwards. So more than enough time to take out any group of enemies and do whatever you have to do before having to worry about reapplying it. The sweet spot is around 4 to 5 minutes. Any combination of armor pieces that would reduce that by another 2 minutes. That 2 or 3 minute mark is just a little too low in my opinion, and isn't as efficient. You have to start worrying about reapplying it mid-fight and things like that, which isn't good. So I like sticking and building the armor in such a way that I at least get a good 4 to 5 minutes every single time. So that's how that works. But moving on, we have the pocket heaters. This is good because we really only have one potential item that gives us frost resistance, if at all. So carrying these will allow you to have some hypothermia resistance in the higher peaks of the Albanese Summits territory. So I like to grab those. I take the elixir for the flat 20% damage against all fell enemies. Great against the Fell Dragon boss and all the enemies in the Shroud when you're in there. Obviously take the Flask of the Fell for flat bonus stamina, always important on pretty much every class. And then for the main 4 food options, and yes, we are taking 4, we're going to get the Dessert Stomach perk and the skill tree that'll give us that additional food slot. These are the best in slot in my opinion, with one of them potentially being able to get swapped out with 3 different options. The first one that we will take always is going to be the Beef Stew, 240 health, 12 health regeneration, and 1 frost resistance. We're going to be taking the Black Coffee, 30 stamina regen, and 6% melee damage buff, which is great. For the flex option, our sweet option, if you will, the 2 main ones that I like to run is either going to be Honey Baked Banana. If you just want health regeneration and stamina, it lasts 9 minutes. If you're going against a boss fight in particular, though, the other option you can run is actually Popcorn. You get 20 flat stamina regeneration, but another 4% melee damage, so min-maxing that damage. The only downside to this one is it only lasts 4 minutes, so it's only good for the really like 1 fight, and then you got to reapply it. The other option you can do specifically for when you're in the Shroud or against the Fell Dragon boss would be the Glimmer Gentian Tea. And the main reason, obviously, that we picked this one is for that flat 15% bonus damage against all Fell enemies. And as we all know, all the enemies in the Shroud and the Fell Dragon boss are Fell type enemies. So that 15% bonus damage would outweigh any flat damage that we get from pretty much any of our other food options, with the exception of 1. So feel free to swap this tea out with either the banana, baked banana, or popcorn when you're in the Shroud territories or going against those bosses. That is the flex one that you can change. But the last but not least best in slot for the warrior option that we want to take always is going to be the fried rice. Reason being, it gives 10 stamina and 21% bonus melee damage. This is the highest melee damage boost food that you can get in the game right now. So between those three main ones and then the fourth flex one, you're pretty much covering all of your bases for the warrior. You can face take literally anything in the game, even at the highest level, which is pretty crazy. So that is the food items. Moving on, we can go to the skill tree. Most important part. So right out the gate, I'll try and go in the order of what I would take them from early game to mid game. Most of it's going to be focusing around like survivability and warrior based perks, but right out the gate, you're obviously going to want to take double jump. This is a no-brainer for traversal and things like that. You could go along the same vein in the assassin tree, pick up the point in dexterity, 1 point in airborne, which we don't really need. It does help for gliding, but we mainly want to get updraft. This is a big one that'll increase the efficiency of our glider, allow us to ramp up higher and things like that. So we definitely want to take those. In the middle, we are going to be focusing on merciless attacks, specifically when we're running the one-handed and shield. It's very, very easy. Our basically parry power is so high that if you can time your parry just right, it really only takes one parry almost instantly fills pretty much every base enemy in the game's stun bar with just one parry, and then you can just instant kill them after that with all the modifiers we're getting. So in the middle, we take the merciless attack. This will basically perform a merciless attack. Once we overpower an enemy with a parry, then it makes it do 500% bonus damage. I then put 3 full points into parry power to increase our parry power even more by an additional 40%. So you combo that with the crazy 385 parry power on the shield we're using, and that's just showing how high the parry strength is. It's literally one successful parry and you can pretty much stun any enemy in the game, with the exception of the elite brutes and things like that. Moving on, I take opportunity. This will increase the multiplier of our merciless attacks by 160%. So if you do stun an enemy and get that merciless attack off, it's pretty much a guaranteed one-hit kill, because the multiplier is just so high. You're doing thousands upon thousands of damage with that attack. 500% flat bonus damage because of the base merciless attack, and then add another 160% bonus damage on top of that. And then our great sword and or sword or shield is doing 800 to 1,000 per swing, without critting, as is. So tons of damage you're going to be getting if you do a merciless. It's basically a one hit. And then lastly, I also take grounding hook. This is what is going to save us against all flying enemies. Anytime a little drakeling or a whelpling starts flying by and annoying you, you can just grappling hook them, pull them towards you into melee range, and just hack them down really quick with your melee options. You don't have to worry about jumping and uppercutting and all this stuff. Just pull them towards you and kill them in one hit, and it's very easy. Moving on to the guardian tree. Take the point in Constitution. I'd probably take an additional early point in Constitution right here in the warrior tree as well. But moving on, you can get 3 points into heavy plates. Equipped armor gets 12% increased physical armor. And then shiny plates, which will give 12% increase to your magic armor, making us more tanky against physical and magical resistance. Quick point in Constitution for more health, followed by Tower and Warden. This will basically give you 10% increased physical resistance against all enemies within 20 meters around you. And then the same thing for Warden, it's 10% but for magical resistance. I skipped these because it's actually less efficient. We don't need Absorb, we don't need Soul Leech. So instead of wasting the 3 points in these, I actually come for the final Guardian perks from a different direction, from the back way, coming down the Warrior tree. So if you go Warrior, we by this point already have Constitution. So we'll take 2 points into Warrior's Path because we want to min-max. We're not going to be using one-handeds as much as two-handeds. So we really only need 2 points. That 1 point is important for something else. To give us basically 10% bonus damage for all one-handed melee weapon damage. The quick point in strength, and by the way, we are taking every single point of strength in the skill tree, maxed out at 23, followed by slasher. All melee cutting damage is increased by 30%. The great sword 2 weapon types that I've showed you that we're going to be using are cutting swords, base damage, so that's why we're taking that. Another point in Constitution for more health, followed by 3 points in Veteran. This will also get an additional 3 points because of the rings and armor that we're using. So that will give us a 12% bonus melee weapon critical strike chance, which is amazing. You crit like crazy with this build. Then I pick up the point in Strength, followed by Swift Blades, This just makes all one-handed melee weapons attack 15% faster. Quick point in Constitution, followed by the quick point in Strength. And then work our way over back to Guardian. I'm leaving this Battle Heal skill out for a reason. I'll tell you in a minute. It's one of the reasons why this build is bugged right now. And sorry for coughing and sneezing. I have a cold still. But quick point in Strength, quick point in Constitution, another point in Constitution, and then Thick Skin. This is a big one. You gain 1 point of Constitution for every 2 levels of Flame. So with our Flame Altar being maxed out at like 8 or 9, I think it's like an additional 4 or 5 points of Constitution that we're going to be getting. So a ton of bonus health with this perk. And then lastly, you want to take only 1 point in Earth Aura. The reason being is we're not going to be playing with a party of people. This is primarily a solo player build. And upgrading this doesn't increase the efficiency of the 10% resistance buff that you're going to be getting. It only increases the range of the buff. So we don't care about range. We're only going to be doing it for ourselves. So you only want to take 1 point. Moving on, the reason why I didn't go over Battle Healed right away is because in combination with the Healer perk, it's actually not working properly right now. And this is, in fact, the bug that I brought up to the devs. If you look at the Healer skill, it says health gained from all healing spells and skills should be increased when maxed out by 45%. But during my testing, the Battle Heal skill, which you would think would be the one health gaining skill for the warrior, does not give you any bonus healing on your critical hits when you hit with these 2 perks active. So I brought it up to their attention. It is flagged as a bug, and unfortunately it hasn't been fixed yet, but that is why I feel like the Guardian of the North Sword might eventually, once they finish this update, it could be 1.0 for all we know when this gets fixed, why that could potentially be the better sword, because the more crits that we're getting, because of that 12% crit chance on the Guardian of the North compared to the Rivalry sword that we're using, you get this 5 points with our armor maxed out into Battle Heal. That's a ton of bonus, basically critical strikes with melee weapons heal 5% of your maximum health every time you crit. So if you got a crazy hard-hitting two-handed greatsword that has a bonus 12% crit chance on it and you're critting like crazy, you combo that basically 5% of your maximum health on every crit with the Healer spell, which is supposed to increase that by an additional 45%, you're going to be getting insane amounts of healing with every crit if these 2 perks start working properly. So for now, to future-proof the build, I am taking the 3 points in Healer, but realistically, there's no need for it right now. You could go this way to get to Blink and go 1 point in Intelligence, 1 point in Arcane Deflection, and then get Blink. But for future-proofing, take the 1 point in Intelligence, 3 points in Healer to get the bonus health whenever we crit with Battle Heal, and then Blink that way. For now, I think it's going to be like a 1 or 2 point difference. You could take those 2 additional points and put them in some spare endurance, because that's always helpful when you're running around and or you're doing like down smash attacks, for example. You could take those 2 points and maybe 1 other point of endurance somewhere else and put it in Wet Dog for now in the meantime, so that you have a little bit less stamina regeneration when you apply that soak status debuff to you. So there's a few other options you can kind of min-max in the meantime with those 3 or so points that you're not going to be getting taking advantage of right now. Honestly, all the combat demos I'm showing at the end of the video has this 3 points in Healer, and we still take everything down no problem. So I just run it now because I know that hopefully it's eventually going to get fixed. But once that does get fixed, Healer in combination with Battle Heal is going to be insane lifesteal that you're going to be getting for warrior builds, which is really, really helpful. It's just not working right now. So that's why I run that route. But moving on, for the Barbarian tree, take the point in Strength followed by 3 full points into Barbarian's Path to give us 20% bonus damage to all two-handed melee weapon damage. This will get increased further by a point from our armor. Quick point in Constitution, Strength, and Constitution for more health and damage, followed by the two-handed specialization. This is the ultimate ability for two-handed weapons that does that spin attack. Actually really strong now once you charge it up, so that's why I take that. Followed by the 3 points plus 1 from our gloves into Titan Edge, which will increase our greatsword damage even more by 20%. Pick up Relentless, which critical strikes with two-handed weapons increase the critical strike chance of the next hit by an additional 8%. So all of these are synergizing and combining to just increase our crit chance with two-handed weapons like crazy. So you're getting a ton of healing and just pump out a ton of damage. 3 full points into Blood Rage. This is a big one. Anytime you kill an enemy within 20 meters, you basically go into a Blood Rage, which increases all melee weapon damage by an additional 15% for 10 seconds. So if there's a lot of small enemies, or you're going against like the Fell Dragon boss, for example, he summons those little mini whelplings. Feel free to just kill one whelpling and to activate the Blood Rage buff, and then go in and take out the Fell Dragon, because you're going to be getting 15% bonus damage for 10 seconds of that attack cycle, which is really handy. So a good little combo there. Also pick up Heavy Hitter, increase the attack speed of all two-handed weapons. I did a small little demo video of this on the channel as well, proving that it does work. It allows our great swords and two-handed hammers and things like that to swing faster, so we get through our attack animation a bit quicker. Point in Barbarian, this is a big one, similar to Thick Skin, only for strength. 2 points of strength for every 2 levels of flame. That's going to be 4 additional points of strength right there, tons of extra damage. And then another point in strength, because we want to take every single one possible. In between, I also take the point in Constitution, Breach, to give us 100% bonus damage against all overpowered enemies when we parry them, as well as 1 point into Bash, just 20% extra blunt damage when we parry an enemy. And this gets further boosted by an additional skill point as well for free because of the armor we're taking. So that's why I grabbed those. Moving on, we go from the Barbarian tree and kind of work diagonally to take 1 point into Steadfast, working our way into the Athlete tree. Defeating an enemy with a melee weapon restores 1 durability on the weapon. Not a big deal, honestly negligible for that matter, especially when we're only putting 1 point. I'm just using it to kind of do a backdoor into the Athletics tree without wasting points in these few status perks over here. Point in Constitution for more health, point in Strength, followed by Crash Down Attack. This is huge with a great sword. It does use 35 to 60 stamina, but this is that jump or double jump down smash. Really good AoE attack when you get surrounded by a lot of enemies. And with the amount of damage our great sword's doing, you can basically one hit like 6 to 7 enemies at once if they're all grouped up, so really handy. And then we take Crash Down Force, which is the upgraded version, which will allow us to do that same double smash, but 20% more damage effectiveness when we do it from a double jump instead of a single jump. So we take that. I also take the point in Strength in the beginning. Next, we take the point in Strength over here. And then last but not least, we want to max out 3 out of 3 Athlete. Increase your maximum health by 8 times your strength attribute. So not only are we taking every single strength node on the tree to give us max damage, but we're also taking it because in combination with Athlete, that tons of strength that we're grabbing, 23 in total, we're getting 8 times that in bonus health. So big boost in health and basically survivability with this perk as well. So once we get all of our warrior based melee perks out of the way, you want to start taking some perks into the endurance trees in Survivor tree. 1 point in endurance for more stamina, max out 3 out of 3, plus 1 from our armor. For the runner perk, sprint speed is increased by 20%, and the stamina cost while sprinting is decreased by 20%. Point in endurance, followed by good metabolism, health, mana, and stamina orbs. Not a big deal in this instance. We're not really going to be generating a ton of orbs with this build. Are increased to 30% instead of 10. The reason I take it is because you get 20% more effectiveness on our health and mana potions, which is nice, and it's the cheapest way to get to Dessert Stomach. So point in dexterity, no need for it really, but we're taking 3 out of 3 for rebound. Base stamina regen, which is important, especially if you're spamming that down smash attack, is increased by 40%. And then last but not least, Dessert Stomach. This is the perk that gives us that 4th food slot option. So that's why we grabbed that there. Moving on, in the Assassin's tree, point in dexterity, don't really care about it, followed by 1 point in airborne. Not a big deal, but I'm taking it just to get a little bit further into the tree for some backstab points. Point in endurance, more stamina. Dexterity, not really needed, but we're taking 3 out of 3 for backstab. The rivalry sword does have a bonus backstab perk on it, so that in combination with this, if you can position yourself well, especially if you parry an enemy, it's easy to walk around behind them. If you're not mercy attacking them, some of the bigger ones, it's not as easy. You'll just do a ton of bonus backstab damage with these perks. So it allows you to take those medium type enemies, the brute type enemies, down a little bit quicker. And then last but not least, to kind of just min-max our damage that much further, the remaining few points that we have, we're actually working our way into the wizard tree to get to 3 out of 3 Iceman. Point in Spirit, to get a little bit more mana, 1 point in Mage Apprentice because we don't care about it, Intelligence we don't care about, but the 3 out of 3 will increase all ice damage on our weapon, the two-handed greatsword, that is half cutting, half ice, by an additional 30%. So it's just going to add that much more additional damage for the elemental side of damage, not the cutting side, for our weapon as well. And I'm all about min-maxing that damage in the end game. So that is the all-around new build. Really strong. Again, we're primarily focusing on two-handed weapons, not one hand. I really only whip out the one hand when there's lower enemies that are easy to parry that you can one-shot with a merciless attack, or when I need to just quickly regain my health in an emergency situation. The one-hander obviously swings faster and has a bunch of life leech on it, so that's why I use that. But two-handed weapon, we've got pretty much all the main two-handed perks that we're going to need. Cutting bonus damage, tons of bonus health, and again, we're taking the max 23 points in strength for this build as well. So really strong. And once you see the attributes, which we can go over here next, we have just tons of health and survivability with this. So I guess all we have left to do is to pop all of our consumables and see what our final stats are in the build. So let's go ahead and do that Drac potion, do our fried rice, do our stew, do our mocha, and then do our popcorn for the quick melee damage buff. Why not? We'll do stamina and the frenzy potion as well. So as it stands, we go to our attributes now. We are sitting at 2,484 health. Insane amounts of health. 280 stamina and 570, or 280 mana and 570 stamina. Let me make sure I got my sword out, because I think that affects some of the stats when reviewing it. But moving on, melee damage 146%, 55 range, 55 magic, 23 constitution, so our health perks are maxed out, and our strength perks are maxed out. 23 is the highest you can go. So max constitution, max strength, 9 spirit, 11 endurance, 11 dexterity, and 10 intelligence. Healing and reviving, not that big of a deal, but we have 84 health regeneration, which is insane. A 0.5 second health regeneration delay. We got the minus 2 second stamina regeneration delay because of our boots, which is awesome. But damage, we are looking at 165% flat critical strike damage. This will actually be increased further depending on if we're using the Guardian of the North Sword or not, because of the perks on it. But we have flat 5% critical strike chance, 25% melee damage, so 30 overall, and this will be potentially higher once we activate the Gem of Currents. That doesn't get calculated. But moving on, 900% sneak attack damage and 640 merciless attack damage. That's what's basically going to give us those one-hit kills if we get a successful parry, plus 90% back damage, 18% bonus damage against all flying enemies because of our gloves, 25% bonus to Drac enemies because of our boots and the Drac potion, 20% against fell, and then 10% against wildlife. Let me double check. Okay, I do have the rings of health on. That's good. Moving on, one-handed 10% bonus, two-handed 20% bonus, and then greatsword in general for the two-handed is 41% bonus damage. So 61 basically base bonus damage we're getting for the two-handed weapon. That's the main reason we're using it. We're also boosting the cutting damage of that weapon by 30% and the ice damage of the weapon by 30%. So both basically damage types of the weapon itself, cutting and ice, are getting boosted. So tons of damage. You guys will see here in a minute from the combat demos. I do one of the Fell Dragon boss and then one of the highest level, basically Drac encampment against the big brute. Take them down, no problem. I think it's just over a minute for the Fell Dragon and just a few seconds for the Drac boss. I face tank every single attack that he does to me, and it barely even scratches the armor on my body. So really strong. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. Apologies again for it taking so long. I'm sure this will all get redone again in the next update or when 1.0 comes out, but I'm looking forward to it, and I love your guys' feedback. So if you guys enjoyed it, be sure to smash that like button, comment down below. Again, I love your guys' feedback. If there's anything interesting or new that you'd like me to potentially do a spin-off build for, I am open to that as well. So feel free to mention that down in the comments. Also, if you'd like to join a community of like-minded gamers, feel free to check the links down in the description and join us on the Discord. We've got over 1,000 members in there now, many of which are playing Enshrouded and always looking for people to play with. So hopefully you jump in and we see you guys around here soon. But until the next one, hope everyone has a great day, and we'll see you all later.